Maths, right? Do you remember our very first lesson together? I showed you a video. Do you remember what the video was about?
No.
Do you remember? We sat down, I showed it to you. If you don't remember, it's all about the fact that maths is patterns. Maths is patterns. So, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Sat on the floor, laptop on my lap. Sort of. So it's all about, like a snowflake. Look at the pattern of it, and you can describe it mathematically. Or look at the noise that comes when a train door closes, where you can describe all that noise mathematically, and on. Okay. And the cool things about patterns is that once you recognize a pattern, when you recognize a pattern,
life becomes so much easier.
Well, yes, but why? Why is it that life?
Because
Okay, you can follow the pattern in places where, how do I say this? Like in the future, you can predict things, and you can understand how things work if you know the pattern. Okay. Now, let me give you an example. I was reading the newspaper the other day, and this is just off the top of my head, so maybe the details are a bit fuzzy, but I'm pretty sure it said something like, astronomers have discovered a planet orbiting some star somewhere out there, and the composition of its atmosphere is very similar to the composition of Earth's atmosphere, nitrogen this, oxygen that, and so on and so on and so on. That was kind of cool, right? But then, well, here's my question. How do they know that? Like all this stuff about the atmosphere and all that kind of thing.
Because it's green and blue.
Well, maybe. I don't know. There's green and blue stuff that doesn't have to do with, like, I could chuck this into space and it would still be the same greeny, bluey sort of color. And you know. Well, no, but no. You're not that far off. I mean, we're looking at these planets through a telescope. No one's ever been there. But they recognize a pattern. Like, it's something about the chemicals, and they give off certain radiation, light wavelengths and so on. And because they do that, they understand what the planet is like, even if you've never been there. They don't have to go fly there and measure. They know the pattern, so they can say something about that planet, even having never been there. Okay? Now we're going to have a look at a similar kind of idea when we think about angles and parallel lines. Okay? But first, let's just introduce some terms, okay? Or reintroduce, rather. So let's get some definitions here.
God bless you. God bless you.
Bless you.
That's such a cute little...
Firstly, now, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I actually want you to write a sentence for me, okay? And it starts off like this. Parallel lines are, and what are they? How would you define them? I reckon we could get a few different definitions here. Probably a few that are valid, a few that aren't. Some will be better than others. Let me just give you about 30 seconds. So have a think about it. Write something down onto your book. Someone who's never heard of what parallel lines are. How would you define what they are to that person? You write it down on your piece of paper, and I'll get everyone to give me their suggestions in about half a minute. Anyway, okay. All right. I reckon it's about enough time. Let me hear some definitions. Parallel lines are, someone want to give a suggestion. Ali, up about.
Opposites.
Whoa. Opposites? Let's put that one down. Who had something different? Jamie?
Lines that never meet.
Yeah. Lines that never meet.
Alright, two lines that never meet.
Two lines that never meet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Does anyone have something different again? Darcy?
Lines that run parallel.
Lines that run in parallel, okay. But that's kind of, yeah. I would hope that parallel lines are lines that run, that run in parallel. I suppose that begs the question, what does parallel mean? Does anyone have something that's different again?
Well,
yep.
They're always straight.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, like, even though they never meet,
Okay, yep.
they can't be wavy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a think about this. Now, I think we're onto something here. Lines that run in parallel, I'm gonna give that one a tick because I think hopefully by definition that is true. Parallel lines are always straight. I'm pretty sure we're thinking about lines that don't bend or wave around, that kind of thing. Okay. Opposites, I suppose this depends on what you mean by opposite. I'm going to come back to this one in a second. Now, I think this is yours, Amy, right? And I think, Chloe, you want to say the same thing. Lines that never meet. Okay, so I have a question for you. I know I can't have an infinite line, like I can't draw one, but I can have part of the line, and that represents the whole thing. So imagine them stretching on forever. Okay, I've got two lines. Now, let me ask you this question, okay? You have a look with me. Here we go. Okay, if these are two lines, are these lines ever going to meet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put them together.
Because the small just go like...
No.
Where's this one going to go? This one's going to go back into the whiteboard, right? And then out through that window. Okay, that one next to the door.
Wait.
That one's
Okay.
gone down.
This one is going to go down through the whiteboard and then
Oh,
off
so it's
up
going
into
up.
that window.
So it's the
Okay.
parent teacher.
These aren't going to meet, are they? Forever, right?
Ooh.
But would you call these parallel lines?
Yellow.
Well, if we just stick with this definition, lines that never meet, you'd call these parallel.
Directly opposite.
Oh, now see, this is where we come back to this. Okay, now hold on a second. How about
Are you serious?
how about these two lines? Are these parallel?
Yes.
Like, assuming I'm holding them pretty straight, they are, right? How about if I move it here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Still?
Yes.
But what about this?
Yeah.
No. That's that way. That's that way. Then what?
Now here's the important thing.
They run along the same
This
path.
lines that never meet, right, I think it's the start. I think it's the first half of our definition. But it seems like we shouldn't call these things parallel because they're not, they're not running together in any sense. They're completely going off in different directions, right? I think it has something to do with this. I think we're on the right track here. What does opposite mean anyway? Opposite.
Magnets.
I was actually looking at this the other day with another class. Another word that's a bit like opposite is, opponent. Whoops, sorry, this is messy. Opponent or opposition. What does that mean?
The other side.
It means the other side. It means they're against you or facing you, right? Now, in what sense are these lines parallel, but these aren't?
Because that's like facing another way.
Yeah, these guys aren't really facing each other, are they? Whereas these ones are. Okay. Now, I still like this idea here, lines that never meet. I want to take that as our start, but I want to use language that you guys know, which we can sort of make it a little more specific. Okay, so I'm going to say parallel lines are lines that never meet, but, okay, now I'm just going to write this down, and let me see if I can explain it, okay? But are on the same plane. Okay, now, I don't mean a flying plane,
Right, I just like
right?
the plane.
I mean a flat surface, okay? This surface here. Now that these lines are on here, okay? These lines are not parallel because they'll hit. They will meet eventually, right? But these lines won't, and they're on the same plane. So these are parallel. Now if I take one of them off like this and face it out toward you, these lines are still not going to meet.
Yeah, but they're not parallel.
But they're not parallel because they're not on the same plane. They're not on the whiteboard. Or I could go again, I could say, here's the table. Here's another plane. I can put lines on there that don't meet, and only those ones are parallel. If I come off the table, like this one that's standing up, okay? It's not going to meet, but it's not parallel. Okay? Alright, that's parallel lines. We need one more word to be able to describe something in relation to these. Because seeing as parallel lines never meet, they're kind of boring, actually. It's like, can you imagine a movie and the two characters, they never meet, and they never interact with each other? It's like, great relationship, character development there, right? Parallel lines on their own, not that interesting. But when you get a line that goes across both parallel lines, and we call them transversals, okay, then interesting stuff happens. Interesting patterns happen, okay? So transversals are, or a transversal is, sorry, I should say that. A transversal is a line,
Going through the middle of this.
all it is to do is cross the other two parallel lines. That crosses two, I suppose you could do more if you like, two or more parallel lines.